We are on the side of light and good. We are on the moral side in terms of protecting the human rights of those being trafficked. The law protects them. And when there's lawlessness, they have no protection. Vice President Kamala Harris is down in El Paso today after months of criticism for failing to visit the border, despite being placed as head of the essentially being made border czar by President Biden. From my perspective, why would she be in a rush to go down there? As far as I'm concerned, or they probably that's the scene of the crime. Why would the perps go down to where the border has been, to a place where the rule of law has been destroyed by specific actions by the president, presumably with the support of the vice president? The border security has been severely weakened. We are being inundated on the border with illegal activity, illegal human trafficking, controlled by the drug cartels. Joe Biden has changed a number of regulations and rules and enforcement measures that had been placed there in terms of being there for a long time, in terms of long-standing rules, on top of the rules that President Trump had implemented to curtail the last tsunami of human smuggling operations that were inundating our border during his term. And so Kamala Harris went down there, did her photo ops, and that's what happens. Politicians go down and do the photo ops, both Republicans and Democrats at the border, for their own political purposes. So I understand that's going on. But this isn't just about a political fight and Republicans making fun of Kamala Harris and all of that. The real question for us is what's happening in terms of the border? Is the rule of law being enforced? Is our country being harmed? Are citizens being harmed? Are illegal aliens being harmed? Those of us who want a secure border, those of us who want the laws enforced related to illegal immigration, we're on the side of those who are trafficked. Those who want lawlessness on the border, those who want open borders, those who refuse to enforce the laws against illegal immigration, namely right now the Biden administration, they place innocents in harm's way. Obviously, citizens of the United States who are victimized by the criminal activity and the lawlessness associated with the border, whose taxes are paid for, used inappropriately to subsidize this illegal activity and further it. But as we talked about, the cartels run these operations, and it's a dangerous game. It places lives at risk, specifically of those being trafficked. So children are being trafficked across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries, and then sent who knows where once they're here in the United States by your government. We're on the side of those children, not the Biden gang, who operates as a partner, practically speaking, for the smuggling of those children across transnational lines. So we are on the side of light and good. We are on the moral side in terms of protecting the human rights of those being trafficked. The law protects them. And when there's lawlessness, they have no protection. I'm sure they want to be here, some of them, and parents see opportunities to get their children here across the border or get their children here illegally. But we shouldn't have a system in place that encourages placing children at risk. It's what happens. It's what's going on. We have a new lawsuit because all the rules go out the window. I mean, it's not just national security, it's not just crime, but it's also public health. Public health rules and the ability of the government to control threats to public health are significant when it comes to controlling and protecting the borders. And the Biden administration has thrown it out the window. In large measure, they've overturned policies by the Trump administration that allowed the use of federal law to turn back immediately border crossers because of COVID and other health emergency concerns at the time. And now we're being told by the Biden administration COVID is a dramatic risk to the American people. Yet all the rules about and the testing isn't going on at the border. Basically, if you can get across the border, you're free and clear. And the health rules about border crossing that might apply to you as a citizen would not apply to an illegal alien crossing the border or someone, quote, seeking asylum. Because if you're seeking asylum, I guess and you get across the border and the government lets you stay here waiting, I guess you're technically not illegally. You're not present illegally yet. But the point being, the COVID rules and restrictions have been thrown out the window for people who go across the border. And Judicial Watch wants to know what's going on. We sued just recently the Health and Human Services Department for information on their handling of COVID-19 and immigration. Specifically, Dr. Rachel Walensky, who is the new head of the CDC under President Biden, the Centers for Disease Control, testified recently in April that the CDC is providing technical assistance to the Office of Refugee Resettlement for the people who are leaving the DHS Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection. As I said, all these COVID rules have been thrown out the window if you're here, if you cross the border and are here illegally, or a child, or whoever is allowed to cross the border by Biden. We asked for all this technical guidance. We followed up. We pay attention to what's going on, and we ask follow-up questions. And so we followed up with this testimony, our investigators did, with a well-thought-out FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request. And those of you who don't know, the Freedom of Information Act is a federal law that provides access to government records. And if they don't give you those government records, the agencies don't, you can go into federal court and sue for them. And then the government has to explain to the court when and if they're going to give us the documents, and if they're not going to give us the documents or portions thereof, why? So in many ways, suing is the only way to get answers. So we filed the request for all the technical guidance provided to the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Resettlement, related to the transmission, testing, mitigation, and/or treatment of COVID-19 for undocumented immigrants who are in or released from Department of Homeland Security and/or Customs or Border Patrol custody. So what is CDC doing about COVID at the border? Is it all bets are off? Why are they hiding this basic information? We didn't ask for a lot of material here. This was in April we filed this request. This was in April we filed the request. Let me see when we sued. No, I can't open it. Well, we sued recently about it. The point being, it's now June, and we still don't have that, quote, technical assistance. So the lawlessness at the border has a myriad of impacts. Safety, health, and national security. And we're investigating it all. We have a separate lawsuit for the documents about the handling of children by HHS and other agencies at the border. You've seen all the videos and the pictures of what went on in these facilities that were overwhelmed by the crush of children crossing the border. And I say children, I use that term loosely because many of the children are actually adults posing as children. Of course, the government, Biden administration doesn't care about that. They don't. They'd have controls in place if they cared about it. They wouldn't let people cross the border if they cared about it. They arrest those responsible for transferring the children and paying for their passage if they cared about children. They don't. It's this crazed revolutionary approach to our borders. mean, it's beyond open borders in the sense that it's encouraging lawlessness that I think even the most, crazed, that even the most extreme libertarian would support in terms of border and the ability of people to go across and through international boundaries. No other country in the world would allow their borders to be abused like ours is. I mean, the big fight is over asylum, the abuse of asylum, where people don't have jobs, so they're coming to the United States and manufacturing, it looks like oftentimes, asylum claims. I mean, what other country would allow you to transfer or go through 2 or 3 other countries before you ask for asylum? Why don't they ask asylum to the first place that is safe next door? Why don't they ask for asylum in Mexico? And President Trump understood these asylum laws were not a suicide pact, and he required that people remain in Mexico if they're going to apply for asylum. Of course, Biden's undoing that. In fact, he's going to allow these people who've lost asylum cases to reapply. They can just show up at the border and reapply, even if they've been deported or been ordered deported. They get a do-over. I mean, in my view, we need to have the military securing the border. I said that during the Trump administration, and I'll say it during the Biden administration. You can see that when a crisis situation, civilian control of the border don't work. I know I said it should say doesn't work, but I'm trying to be dramatic there. So, we've been doing this work, exposing the truth about the border. We've been attacked by the media. We've been attacked by government agencies for telling the truth about the border. We're suing in court sanctuary cities that provide aid and comfort in violation of the law to aliens here in violation of the law. Republicans seem to have forgot about the border crisis. It hasn't abated at all. I mean, the problem the Biden people had was they had a PR problem in terms of people overwhelming their system. So what did they do? They just let the people go right through, so they didn't have to corral them and get bad video and pictures of that activity. So now they're sending them on planes all over the country. So right now, it doesn't matter where you are. Every town is a border town. Because when you have 180,000 people a month, at least, and that's just the portion, getting apprehended at the border, I think that's the number, 880,000. And that's a portion of those who get through. Where do you think all those people go? Do you think they all stay in Texas? Of course not. I mean, it's so bad now. It's a free-for-all in that every country, if you're wherever you are in the world, all you have to do, and I say all you have to do, I understand it still costs money to do so, is fly into Mexico City and go north. So we're seeing increased numbers from countries other than Mexico and other than Central America coming up from all over the world. It's an open border. So Kamala Harris can go down to the border 55 times and, let's not get distracted about making fun of the fact that she didn't go down to the border till just now. Politicians going back and forth to the border isn't going to solve the issue. I mean, the Biden administration can move down to McAllen, Texas, and have the White House down there, but if the policy doesn't change, the crisis will continue. And this is why I've suggested that the House, anyone who's serious about this issue, talk about impeachment. The President of the United States has a positive constitutional obligation to enforce the rule of law and to preserve and protect our borders. And he isn't doing it. He's undermining the rule of law. He's refusing to enforce immigration law. He's virtually stopped all deportations. That's impeachable. His HHS secretary, Health and Human Services, DHS secretary, Mayorkas, who helped further the Obama amnesty, he should be impeached too, or he should be on the list for impeachment. I see Congressman Bullard and some other members of Congress are seeking a censure resolution of Joe Biden over his refusal to enforce the law, his failure to do his job, to uphold his oath. That's a good place to start. But isn't it interesting? The left wants to impeach Trump for fraudulent reasons, and yet you have Joe Biden act contrary to law and attack the law, specifically refuses to enforce our laws that protect our sovereignty and protect our public safety. People are getting killed because of this directly, not six before, 5 or 6 steps down the line. There are people who are being released onto the streets who should be deported, but who are not. Criminals are now on the streets killing and otherwise harming people who would not have been able to do so but for Biden's refusal to enforce the law. Is that impeachable? Dare I say it, we should have a debate about it. So forgive me for going on about it, but someone's got to talk about the crisis.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.